Satan and I pattered our way down the path that cut through the dark woods around us. Though, to call them woods might be a little generous. Rather than tree bark, the trees seemed to be coated in a slimy black scales. The leaves looked like rugged pieces of skin and were oozing a thick black substance down to the ground below. Satan had explained that these were vampire trees. Vampires, he had told me, as undead creatures, were incapable of reproducing the same way as humans. These trees were planted with a mix of both magic and vampire blood, and over the course of a 1,000-year lifetime, the little bits of ragged skin knit together to form a vampire fetus. I didn't think to ask him what that might look like. Satan gestured to one of the trees in front of us. "Look at that one, Jeb. It's a Transylvania-Romanian hybrid. The scales are really magnificent, aren't they?" Sure. I wasn't sure which tree he was referring to. They all looked exactly the same to me. "You don't have to pretend to know what I'm talking about, Jeb. We both know that you don't know dick about vampire trees." "Right." Satan picked up the pace a little. "We're gonna go meet an old friend of mine," said Satan. "He's really sensitive about his teeth, so try not to say anything stupid." "Why? What's wrong with his teeth?" "There's nothing wrong with them, Jeb. Like they say, it's not the size of the fangs that matter, it's how you use them." "Oh, so it's sort of like with guys in their, you know." "No, I don't know what." "Penises?" Satan grinned. "I did know, actually. I just wanted to make you say it. Yeah, pretty much the same, really. Just something girl vampires say to make them feel better." "Oh, okay." The forest got thicker and thicker with vampire trees, so much that the black fluid dripping down started running off in little currents. I couldn't even see the castle ahead when we finally reached it, the only thing visible beneath the treetops being the large wooden door and the two torches on either side that cast an eerie light over it. Satan rapped his knuckles on the door, and it opened to reveal a waxy white vampire in the bathroom. His hair was unkempt and brushed the top of his shoulders, and his eyes looked like little blue ice chips. "Hey, good to see you again, Stu," said Satan. Stu grinned wide to show off a mouthful of white teeth, and two of the biggest fangs I had ever seen. Satan gasped. "Jesus, Stu! It looks like you whittled down the candy canes. Where did you get those?" "Fang enhancement surgery," he said smugly. "Got them from a tiger with a bad overbite." "They look great, buddy. Anyways, this here is Jeb. Jeb, Stu. Stu, Jeb. Got it? Good." Hi," I said stupidly. "So what kind of name is Stu for a vampire?" "It's great, isn't it?" He smiled again, showing every single tooth in his mouth. "My birth name is Dracula, but I wanted something that really struck fear into the heart, you know, so I changed it to Stu." All right then. Anyways, Stu turned around and beckoned us to follow him inside. "Why don't you come and sit down for dinner before we do the ritual?" I didn't see how I could refuse without risking disembowelment, so I slightly nodded, and we made our way to the dinner table where I dreaded seeing what a vampire's idea of dinner was. I was surprised to see the giant tables allayed with all sorts of delicious-looking things. There was a steak still sizzling from the grill, giant wheels of some sort of white cheese, a few dozen bottles of wine, and some sort of soup that let off a thick smell of garlic. Satan rubbed his hands together and grinned. "So glad to see you finally given up on that weirdo diet, Stu." Stu shook his head. "I haven't given up on it. This is just for you guys." "What sort of diet are you on?" I asked. Stu sighed miserably. "All vegan," he said, lifting up a bell from the table and giving it a shake. I wondered how a vampire could be vegan, but my question was quickly answered as two huge vampires carried in a screaming, kicking man. They slammed him down on the table in front of Stu, knocking over a few wine glasses in the process, and Stu bent down to feed on his neck. The screaming abruptly turned to gasping, and the man's body began to shrivel up like a raisin before falling still. I'd grown used to seeing this sort of horror, and was more curious than anything. "So, Stu," I said in between mouthfuls of mashed potatoes, "what's the point of a vampire going vegan?" "Regular human blood has way too much cholesterol these days," he said blandly. "The full fat does taste so much better, though," he said sadly. Most of the rest of the dinner was finished in silence as we respectfully devoured our meals. I went through 2 8-ounce steaks and an absurd amount of garlic mashed potatoes, while Satan had a marinara farfalle and 3 bottles of wine, and Stu had 2 more vegans. Afterwards, I drew the same ruin on Stu's chest as I had on Maddie's. She had been right. Drawing the ruin was much easier with a flat surface and no throbbing erection. "All done," I said when I finished. "Great," said Stu. "Satan and I are going to head off to the Soulport." He eyed me with a look that was suspiciously similar to hunger. "What's your cholesterol like?" he said, cocking an eyebrow. "High," I said hurriedly. Really, dangerously high." He looked unconvinced, but just then Satan clapped him on the shoulder and whispered something in his ear that sounded a lot like hepatitis. I opened my mouth to protest, but then thought better of it, waved them goodbye as they left.